guys, it is Thursday and I am cooking my lunch slash dinner because I cook for myself in the afternoon because I cook dinner for my husband and he doesn't eat the same things I do. So what I do is I cook my lunch with enough for leftovers for dinner that very same day. So I don't have to worry about cooking 2 meals at once any given day. So what I'm doing right now is making a sweet potato and mushroom risotto. And I'm going to use some vegetable broth to cook the rice, and I have some of my homemade almond milk that I'm going to use to make it creamy and kind of look like your typical risotto. So I'll just show you kind of what I'm doing. This is a recipe that I came up with. This so good, like amazing good. So I'll show you guys how I make it. So I started off just by chopping some veggies. I have half of a red onion, I have half of a sweet potato, and I have a full portobello mushroom, one of the big cap ones. I like these because they have a really meaty texture. They're nice and chewy, and they go really well with the tiny bite-sized sweet potato bites I have here. My onion I just cut into like strips, and what I'm doing right now is just sauteing them a little bit. I use a smidge of Smart Balance extra virgin olive oil, butter. I'll show you that right here. This is what I use. I don't use a whole lot when I'm sauteing. I try to kind of limit it a little bit because oil isn't really that great for you. Can you get out of the fridge, please? Come here. You want some blackberries? Okay, you can have some blackberries. I'm gonna say no to healthy fruits? I don't think so. So I got my onions caramelized a little bit, and the sweet potatoes are starting to get a little bit of color. I tossed in some dried thyme, probably about 1/4 teaspoon of dried thyme, and kind of just cooked it until I started to smell the thyme. And I'm going to go ahead and throw in the mushrooms. And mushrooms don't really take long to cook, so I just kind of toss them in and then we'll start with the rice. Mushrooms cook down a lot too, so it starts out looking like you have a lot of mushroom and then it really kind of cooks down. So I'm going to move everything over to the side of the pan. Doing this with one hand, kind of great, huh? And I'm going to put in a 1/2 cup of arborio rice, aka risotto rice. So I'm going to do a 1/2 cup of that because I like a lot of veggies to rice. So I put my rice in the pan, and I'm going to let it kind of toast there on a medium-ish heat. Get it on almost 6. Medium-ish heat until I can kind of start to smell the rice a little bit. I don't cook with timing. I just cook by smell, honestly. And I just eyeball everything. So I'm going to let that toast, and I'm going to clean up my mess. My rice is starting to toast a little bit, so what I'm going to do is put in some vegetable broth. Usually I try to get low sodium vegetable broth, but I couldn't find it at Walmart when we went last. So I'm going to put just a little bit of veggie broth in there. Risotto is kind of, you gotta love it. You have to cook it slow and it takes a little while, but the payoff is so worth it. So I've got just enough to kind of make the bottom of the pan look wet. And what I'm going to do is consistently stir this. And when I say that, I mean no joke, you're not walking away from the stove. Consistently stir this until there seems to be no liquid when you kind of pull away the risotto. That means it's starting to absorb it. And then you add a little bit more. And you keep going until you test the rice and it feels like it's almost done. So kind of like al dente pasta would. And then I'll show you what I do. What I do is I then add my milk at that point and finish cooking it. So I'm going to try to keep an eye on how much of this broth it takes to cook this rice. Generally speaking, when I make this recipe with a 1/2 cup of rice and all these veggies, I use almost a full 32-ounce carton of veggie broth, and then probably about a cup of almond milk. But I'll try to let you guys know how much I use this time around. It really varies from time to time when you make it because of what pot you use, how high your heat is, because obviously the water in the broth is going to get evaporated, so you really kind of just have to test it as you go. The rice will let you know when it's done. So I'm going to cook the rice in the veggie broth, and then I'll come back and show you putting the milk in. Okay, so I'm coming back. I'm starting to get about 3/4 of the way done cooking my rice. I was kind of tasting it as I went through, and I added probably about 1/4 teaspoon of paprika just to give it some smokiness. And then I also added a tablespoon of tahini paste. That's going to give it a nice nutty flavor that complements the toasted rice and the mushrooms and kind of brings out the sweetness of the sweet potato. So I've done that. I'm going to continue cooking this until the rice is just almost done, and then I'm going to add my almond milk, and then we can finish it up. Okay, my rice is mostly done, and I'm going to go ahead and stir up my homemade almond milk. It tends to separate in the fridge, so I'm just going to stir it up. God, that's hot. Did you fall again? Goober. Right, so I'm stirring this up, and I'm going to put about 1/2 cup of this into my almost finished risotto. And pop it back onto the eye. I pulled it off just so it wouldn't get stuck to the bottom while I was doing that. And you can see that suddenly the color is going to change from like a really dark brown from the mushroom to like this light tan beigey color that's delicious looking. And I'm going to continue to kind of partially simmer and stir this until we're back to about the consistency of what we want. Just a note, I've used probably all but, feels like about 1/2 cup in there. I usually end up mixing that 1/2 cup back into the leftovers, so I would say probably plan on a 32-ounce carton to make this. This will make me about 3 servings if I'm not super generous with my serving of this, because this is just so good I could sit and eat the whole pot. But and Kenna really likes it too, so I end up sharing with her. So about 3 servings, give or take, maybe a little bit more if you're having it as a main dish or side dish alongside something else. I'll probably have this and then my leftover Brussels sprouts from last night that I had for a snack, which was amazing. So I'm going to finish cooking this, and then I will get it into a bowl, and we will num. One other thing I wanted to note is that because I cut up the sweet potatoes so small, what ends up happening is as you mix and they cook, they end up disintegrating, which is what we want because it's going to make this the kind of hind note of the sauce creamy and feel really thick, which is hard to get without like dairy cream. So you saw how they started out. They're going to end up being really tiny, if not completely disappearing. Okay, the risotto is almost done. I wanted to kind of show you how it's going to look when it's almost done. It's starting to get pretty thick, and if you drag your cooking utensil across the bottom of the pan, it starts to leave a line for a few seconds. So this is almost done. I've tested the rice, and it feels like regular rice when you kind of bite into it, but you can still see there's a good amount of moisture that can still come off. So I'm just going to continue to stir this. It's on a really low heat because I don't want it to boil anymore at this point. And we're just going to evaporate off a little bit more of the liquid, and then it will be done. Yeah. And here's my lunch for today, you guys. This is my nice creamy risotto that we just made, and you can see that the sweet potatoes are really, really tiny now, which is going to be amazing. You'll kind of just get little tiny pops of sweetness. I will leave a link to a text post on my blog, which is DIY, SAHM for DIY stay-at-home mom.com on my blog. Check me out. Bye, guys!